Good morning, friends. And this today we have something slightly different than we would have had today. Today we have Mark Gill from the Centre for the Deaf, and his talk is called An Opportunity to Discuss Hearing Loss. So, friends, when you're ready, Mark.
Okay, thank you very much, Ray, for that introduction. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you all for inviting me along to this session. Hopefully, you'll find this very useful. Sorry, and I should have introduced myself as well. So my name is Mark Gill. I've got my interpreter here, Moira Jackson. There may be a slight time delay because of interpretation purposes, so just bear with us. My colleague is also here, Piers Cattell, as you can see. Hiya. So Piers works at the Centre for Deaf as well, and he's got his interpreter here, Jackie Griffiths, who you can see waving on the screen. So today I'm going to be leading a presentation for about 10-15 minutes, and it's about hearing loss and how to manage with hearing loss. After that, Piers will do a presentation for about 15 minutes discussing our equipment service and what it can do for you and how you can get access to things within the home to encourage and promote independence within the home. So things like amplified telephones, alarm clocks with flashing lights and things like that. So it's to promote independence for as long as possible. So he's the expert and I will leave all that up to him. After that, we will then open it up for questions and answers. So any burning questions you may have after the session, we'll be there to answer them. Everybody happy with that? Yeah? Give me a thumbs up. By the way, we sort of, everything's a visual thing for us. So if you can thumbs up, then I know everybody's happy. Right, I'm going to share my PowerPoint on the screen. So you should be able to see the PowerPoint as well as listen to Moira's voiceover as well. So what I will do is I will also email Patsy with the slides so that she can share those after the presentation. So if there's anything you've missed or anything you need to refer back to, you've got that. Right, I'm going to share the screen now. So is everybody able to see the slides okay? Yeah, fabulous. So this is us, the Centre for Deaf. This is the team here. There's 5 of us. As you can see, I'm there on the right-hand side. Rebecca's next to me, so she's a Centre for Deaf admin worker. Then the other side, you've got a man hiding behind everybody, hiding behind the tree almost, is Steve. So he works for the equipment service also. Then you've got that man with the white beard, as you can see here, that's Piers Cattell. So he also works for the equipment service, but he's the manager of the equipment service. And then next to Piers is, with that lovely reindeer jumper, is Justin. And he is the chief executive of the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So 5 of us in total, so it's quite a small team. So the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing have been set up to support deaf and hard of hearing people who live within Bristol and the surrounding areas. That's something, a very clear statement. And our vision is to encourage people to participate in all aspects of life in the city, regardless of their hearing loss. Also, our mission is to create fair access and improve the quality of life for all people who may suffer from a hearing loss and provide emotional and practical support so that they can continue enjoying life as they did previously. So some of the things that we're working on at the moment, so obviously, as I explained before, Piers will go into detail about the equipment service that we offer. We are also funded by the Bristol Impact Fund. So that's how my role is funded, and that's part of Bristol City Council work. It's to try and encourage groups to set up activities and make them sustainable in the long run. Is to give them confidence and empower deaf and hard of hearing people to do that. We're also running some small projects with the Deaf Dementia Wellbeing Group, and that's for both deaf and hard of hearing people. We also did a deaf quiz night. We raised a lot of money for the deaf community in Ukraine. And we also helped launch the 999 BSL event back last year. The 999 BSL app is a new service for any BSL users to be able to access the emergency services, much like their hearing peers. Rather than having to ask somebody to make that emergency call for them, they're now able to do that directly themselves via the 999 BSL app. So that launched May of last year. Then we also have supported 6 men who did a fundraising event, which was cycling from Land's End to John O'Groats, to raise men for a deaf mental health wellbeing group for men specifically, deaf men specifically. So we've been supporting them throughout, and we signpost. So anybody who comes along and isn't sure where to access certain bits of information, should they be deaf and hard of hearing, they come to us and we signpost them as best we can. Okay. So these are just some indicators of hearing loss. It's not easy sometimes to work out whether or not you've got a hearing loss of some sort. So we thought these may be useful. So difficulty hearing other people clearly, maybe misunderstanding what they say, especially if it's a noisy environment. Perhaps asking people to repeat themselves can be an indicator. Listening to music or watching television and perhaps the volume is up quite high. Maybe you're having difficulty chatting on the phone, you're struggling to hear people on the phone. You might well think, oh, maybe it's just the phone, I just need a new phone. But sometimes it can be that your hearing has deteriorated. Maybe finding it hard to keep up with the conversation. Maybe you're not understanding what one person is saying, or you're not able to follow in a group environment. And some people tend not to say anything and stay quiet and just hope that they'll keep up with it at some point, but it can be very difficult. Or feeling very, very tired or stressed because you've had to concentrate so hard to understand what's going on in a group. And it could be that somebody else would notice your hearing loss before even you do. That can happen quite often. So there are different ways that people can gain better access to sound. So one way could be by use of a hearing aid. I'm sure most of you maybe are familiar with hearing aids or have heard of them at least. Am I right? Yeah. I'll explain a little bit more as to how it works in the next slide. Another device that can help is a cochlear implant. Have any of you ever heard of a cochlear implant before? No. So I've got one myself, as you can see here. This is a cochlear implant. And I'll explain how this works in the next slide. And other people may have a bone conduction hearing device. So these are just 3 different devices that people may or may not choose to use. They're the most common bits of technology that people might use to improve their access to sound. So I'll explain a little bit more about how it works now. So as you can see in the picture, you've got the ear and the ear canal and everything. I'm not going to be going into detail. I'm not a doctor. It's just a brief explanation as to how it can help. So you can see, so this is the hearing aid. So you see inside, you've got like a circular like a spiral almost inside in that picture, as you can see the cochlear. So you've got the hair cells that inside the ear that pass the sound externally, internally, and then the brain interprets that into a specific sound. So it works out what that sound might be. So some people who are deaf or hard of hearing, the reason they may have a hearing aid is because the hair cells may be damaged or just not working well enough. So the sound can't be passed through effectively enough for the brain to work out what that sound actually is. So what people may use in this instance is a hearing aid. So the hearing aid amplifies the sound. So it pushes the sound almost further into the ear because of the volume, and the brain may then interpret it a little bit easier and work out what that sound is. So that's why the hearing aids are there. So they're there to amplify the sound for a deaf or hard of hearing person. So the cochlear implant is slightly different in that usually in this instance, the hair cells aren't working at all. So they're not responding to any external sound. So that's where a cochlear implant might come on. So they have a specific wire that gets inserted inside the cochlear, and it's to replace those hair cells that are now no longer working. And that then sends the sound to the brain, and the brain interprets that into whatever sound that might be. So that's why somebody might have a cochlear instead of a hearing aid. And then you've got a bone conduction hearing aid. So that depends on the ear itself. So it could be that there's no room for an ear mold to be inserted. It could be that a person's ear is, some bits of it are missing, therefore cannot hold a regular hearing aid. So again, it's then screwed in to a bone at the back of the ear, which does the same, it has the same idea. So the vibrations send that sound, and the brain interprets that into whatever sound that might be. So people who wear hearing aids, some people wear hearing aids, some people wear cochlears, some people wear bone conduction. It depends on what works best for you. Okay. I'm trying to keep this as brief but as straightforward as possible, because I don't want to go into too much detail as I'm not a doctor myself. But like I say, if there's any questions, we can answer those at the end. So like I say, hearing aid, we've gone through it. It basically amplifies the external sound. So it pushes the sound further into the ear. The hearing aid's made up of a microphone and an amplifier. And that helps people to pick up the sound in that environment. A cochlear implant, like the one I showed you, uses electrodes to stimulate the nerves, and then the brain interprets that into sound. So for this, though, you need to have an operation. So if you can see on the picture, there is the black cochlear implant, but on the other side, it's a white coloured piece of technology, and that actually gets inserted underneath the skin, just behind the ear, and then a magnet attaches the two together. So the cochlear is your external microphone. It picks up on all the sound and passes it to that internal piece of technology, which then translates that sound to your brain. So you can see on my head, if I show you now, so I can attach this and it will just hang there because it's got a magnet. So the magnet keeps that together. Oh, I think somebody's got a question.
Yes, it's just a problem because of the way Zoom works. We're seeing Moira when Mark is showing us things.
Okay.
And he's not on my screen at present at all.
So
different people. I'm using, I've got side-by-side gallery view. And so I've got, I can see most people at the same time as I can see the screen with the slides.
The other option Mark was saying is you could pin Mark. So he would be the only person that you could see. alongside the shared screen. Well, maybe what I can do as well is I can show you at the end when I've stopped sharing my screen so that you're able to access it a little bit better, because it'll be a bigger screen anyway, if that helps.
Yeah.
So a cochlear implant costs in average around £25,000. So that includes the operation and the process of, you know, going to a doctor, talking about whether or not you're eligible for one. All that costs 25,000. A hearing aid costs in the region of about 1,500. So it's a vast difference there. But a cochlear implant, you have to go through the assessment process because they have to be able to justify the cost and know that that's something that you're certain you're wanting to have because of the procedure involved. So things you can do if you have a hearing loss. So there are lots of things you can do in terms of communicating with people, because some people tend to avoid group settings if they're struggling. So do reduce background noise or move to a quieter area when talking to other people. Do face people when you're talking to them so that they're able to lip read you and look at your facial expression and access gesture. And it's okay for you to say, please, could you look at me when you're talking to me? Because that's the only way I can access what you're saying. That's absolutely fine. And do ask people to repeat themselves, or you can ask them to speak slowly. Or you can follow up afterwards in a quieter environment if you're struggling in that particular environment. Okay, so don't listen to music too loudly or a TV too loud. You need to make sure that you're listening to things at a comfortable level. Piers will talk later about the different pieces of equipment that you can use to access the TV a little bit better, so that you're not having to adjust the volume so that it's too loud. Do not put your fingers or any objects like cotton buds in your ears, because they can become blocked, and then that can affect your hearing quite a bit. So these are quite common things the NHS advise everybody in terms of hearing loss. So you'll see it on their website. So tips for coping with hearing loss. So one is let people know that you have a hearing loss. It means that they're aware, and they may well adjust the way that they approach you or communicate with you. They may try and use different ways like gesture to communicate with you. Contact your local GP because they may be able to refer you to the audiology team. You could try out some lip reading classes to improve your lip reading skills. I'm happy to email Patsy a few details of some lip reading classes I know of. You contact Bristol City Council. Excuse me. They have various different services that can help people with a hearing loss. And RNID, the Royal National Institute for the Deaf. If you have a look on their website, there's lots of fantastic information and resources on there with people who have a hearing loss and how to cope, and the technology available and support groups out there. There's lots and lots of information available. But also you could go to support groups. So Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing have various different support groups. Gloucestershire Deaf Association, that's specifically for South Gloss residents, but they have support groups available as well. And also just important for us to let you know, we do run some coffee mornings for hard of hearing people specifically. And that happens once a month. We meet here at the Vassal Centre. And it's an opportunity for hard of hearing people to get together, have a chat, obviously talk about maybe similar issues they may face on a day-to-day basis. And it can sometimes help to know that other people in the same boat and how they manage with it. And it's a nice quiet room, and that happens once a month. And it's an opportunity for me to come along and update you with anything that's happening, any support groups out there. That happens between 10:30 and 12:30 here at the Vessel Centre. We've got a free on-site car park, so the more the merrier. I have put in the next 3 months dates there, so 18th of January. So it's always on a Wednesday, 18th of January, the 15th of February, and the 15th of March. So we provide free refreshments, teas, coffees, biscuits. So you just turn up, and other people who are there, but again, like yourselves, may struggle to communicate. It's a really lovely environment that you can access and feel a lot more comfortable, and it's very quiet, like I say. So I can email again, Patsy, with those details. I've got a poster with all the upcoming coffee morning dates on there, so I can email that to you. Okay. So very quickly, I can show you now my cochlear so that you can see clearly on the screen. So this is my cochlear. And like I explained, there's a magnet that's been inserted inside, and it attaches just like this. So it's a bit like a fridge. So if any of you got a fridge at home with lots of magnets, that's a bit like my head. That's basically what I'm saying here. So I will hand over to Piers, my colleague, who will talk a little bit more about the equipment service and what they can do for you. And then, like I say, I'll come back at the end. So if you've got any questions or anything that you're concerned about, we can talk about it then. All right. Brilliant.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, if you could share the screen, please. Oh, I don't think I can. I don't think I'm able to do it. Can you pay? Patsy, is it possible to make me host as well then? Piers is asking, please.
Hang on a second. Which person am I going to share it with?
Piers Kittel.
From Piers. Hold on, I'll get on with you. Wait a minute. Oh yeah. Sorry. Okay. David, is there anything I can do to stop? Would it help people if I closed my screen? If I
No, it's okay. It's not too much of a distraction, Patsy. I don't think
okay.
it's
Okay.
better that you stick around.
Is Piers ready to continue?
Yeah, Piers, I think you have control now. You're a host.
That's good.
Right, I hope everyone can see that.
Yep.
Great. So my name is Piers. Thank you, Mark, for that interesting explanation about what happens at the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing People. The aim today is to discuss who we are, but actually Mark's done such a brilliant job, I don't think I will need to do that. I'll explain a little bit about what the equipment service is and what we do, what kinds of equipment we're able to provide. I'll explain a bit about what a hearing loop is and what it does, and also the costs and eligibility criteria, the process, and how to obtain the equipment. I'll drop this slide because you know who we are. So I'll talk specifically about the equipment service now. We're funded by Bristol City Council. They give us the funding to run the service. And we provide equipment for people's homes, not in workplaces, but for homes. Excuse me. I can provide advice about workplaces, but actually what we do is we go out to people's homes, we do a home visit, we have an informal chat with the person. And then once we've had that chat and we've decided what that equipment might need, then we will install the equipment. And then if there are any repairs required, we can do the repairs as well. We can give advice, and also we can do some bespoke work for people as well. If there's any specific unusual situations that people find themselves in, we'll try to do a workaround. We have a resource room here at the Vassal Centre where people can come in and have a look at the equipment that's on display. And also we're able to signpost onto other services that may be more appropriate. The sorts of equipment we provide are things like, for example, a doorbell. So this doorbell flashes, it has a flashing light, and it also has a loud noise. So you can either have one or the other, or both if you choose. And then the equipment on the right-hand side is the doorbell, and that's placed outside your front door. The doorbell itself, the internal piece is movable. You can bring it around as you change rooms. There's also a box that we can give you that has both your doorbell but also your telephone, so you know when the telephone rings as well. So it's just all in one piece of equipment, which is much easier for you just to move around one piece of equipment with you. We also have telephones that are amplified, so they can link in with a loop, or they can have a mobile phone, or you can have a cordless phone. It's completely up to you which piece of equipment works best for your lifestyle. We have a TV personal listener amplifier. So it's based next to your television. The piece of equipment is next to the television, and it then sends information directly into the loop that you wear around your neck, which then links into your hearing aids directly, or into your cochlear implant directly. So the information is going directly from the television into your aid. There's also, we can provide, if people prefer, a box that they hold themselves and then aim towards the television that they want to listen to, if that's a better piece of equipment for you. It's similar, but it does a slightly different type of job. Oh, just as an aside here, some people aren't aware of what a loop system is, so I'll explain that to you. See the symbol you can see on the right-hand side? That tells you there's a loop system. So it's called an induction loop. So you might hear the word loop, or you might hear an induction loop. So what that is there's a signal that maybe could be from the television or from some other microphone set, maybe in a window or maybe the bank or somewhere. And that information, once you turn on your equipment to the T setting, then that means whoever's speaking into the microphone, it goes directly into your aid, which means you don't hear the background information. If somebody is talking around you, you don't hear them quite so much as you can hear directly from the person speaking into the microphone. It's a real benefit because it means you can hear directly the person you're speaking to. The way to do it, so you can see the letter T is there. On your aid, there'll be a little switch that you can move your aid to a T, if it's on the cochlear implant, it can be done through the clicks on there, or sometimes through your mobile phone, and it tunes it into just that specific microphone. It's useful for places like going to the theatre or going to the bank, other places where there's lots of background noise. It's also portable, so again, you can bring it with you if you're going somewhere. If you're going into a noisy environment, you can then listen just to the specific speaker. Or there is a loop system that actually will cover the entire room of a large conference hall, for example. So the loop goes all around the outside of the room, so you can hear everybody that's within that loop system, or you can hear just a section of that if you choose to just have the loop within a small section within that room. Moving on now to alarms. So you can have either analog or digital or large viewed alarms to wake you up in the morning. We also have a pager system that people can have for alarm systems as well, for the alarm clock. So there are different ways that we can ensure that people can hear, or they can be alerted to alarm going off, depending, again, around your needs. You can see at the top, on the right hand, or in the middle, there's a big flashing piece that I've just turned to circle around. So that's very big flashing light that you can see. The next one down is a really loud amplified sound. Or you can have an alarm clock that's next to your bed, and again that can link to the different equipment that you have in your house. You can have a pager that you can wear in your pocket, or you can have around your neck, or put it in, carry it around with you. And then as you're walking around, the pager will then vibrate and make a noise so that you know that you've got something, whether you need to go to the doorbell or the phone is ringing, it will alert you to different sounds. You can have this vibrating piece that goes under your pillow in your bed, so that when the alarm goes off, it vibrates, and so your pillow moves and it lets you know that it's time to wake up. But you can also have that linked into a baby alarm or a doorbell, or I expect at your age you might not necessarily have a lot of babies living in the house, but it may be possible that you're looking after grandchildren, and that might be useful for you as well. So this is another piece of equipment that again links into the doorbell or the telephone or baby alarms or smoke alarms. If you're caring for somebody and you can't hear them when they're shouting for you, and you need to be able to know that they need your help, then again you can have this, and there's a button that the person can press, and then that tells you, that sends an alarm to you to say, I need you to come to me now. Again, this can link up onto your fire alarms, your smoke alarms in the house. And now we've recently had it, so the ability goes into your own mobile phone, which is really useful. So as I've mentioned earlier, fire alarms, CO alarms, and so on. We don't set up fire alarms. We contact on your behalf the fire service, who will come to your home and fit the alarm within your home. However, their systems do match with our system. So what they provide for you will match with whatever we've provided with you to alert you. We can do some bespoke systems as well. So for example, if somebody's got a specific type of door, so perhaps you're caring for somebody with dementia, and the person opens the door and you need to know that they've gone out of the door. Maybe you're in the living room watching television, you're not aware that somebody has actually gone to the front door and opened the front door. We can set it up so that an alarm goes off, so that you're alerted to the fact the front door has been opened or their bedroom door has been opened. Again, we can link this onto a burglar alarm if necessary. Also, some people have water flooding alarms, so that the water doesn't overflow in a bathtub, for example. Sometimes people want to be informed about the radio. So if there's somebody with dementia, for example, they may not be able to do certain pieces of of things so that we can have alarms set to different aspects within your home so that you're alerted to the person needing your service or needing you to help them in some way. And again, if the person wakes up and gets up, you can have next to the bed a pad that somebody, when they get up and stand on, it sets an alarm off, so we can attach that alarm to your alarm system so that you're aware that that person has taken themselves out of bed. Let's go on to about the costs and eligibility, because obviously equipment is costly, as we all know. The council has given us funding to pay for some equipment. So the equipment doesn't belong to you, the equipment belongs to the council. So we lend it to you for a certain period of time. So the eligibility requirements are: you must be deaf or hard of hearing. You must be over 18 years of age. And you must live within Bristol City Council boundaries. There are other councils, of course, some people may live outside of our boundaries, and that's absolutely fine. We can actually, if you contact us, we can pass you on to the specific equipment service that provides for that area, such as South Gloss, North Somerset, or Bath, or North East Somerset. So if you're living within the Bristol City Council and you move out to another council area, that's absolutely fine. If you let us know, we can help you to make that smooth transition. The process, when you make the initial contact with us, whether it's yourself or you're referred through via another person, we'll contact you, we'll make an appointment to have a home visit. Obviously, that's free. We'll have an informal chat with you about what your needs might be, what we might be able to provide, and then we can have an agreement about what we will provide for you. Then we'll have a return visit with you where we'll bring the equipment to your property. We will show you, we'll set it up, we'll show you how it all works. And then we'll do 2 weeks later, we'll do a follow-up. We'll give you a call and just ask if everything's all right, if you're having any problems. And again, we'll do the same thing a year later, just to follow up and see if everything is still working well for you. And for example, if things like the battery goes flat or the equipment stops working, if you contact us, we will obviously come out and sort that out for you. So we have ongoing support. There's lots of different equipment. You can contact us by letter. You can contact us by coming into the Vassal Centre and popping into our office, which is the address here is Gill Avenue, BS 16 2QQ. Or you can phone us on 0345 900 7830. Or you can go online, which is www.cfd.org.uk/ESR, and fill in the form there, and that way we'll know who you are and we will come back to contact you. Thank you very much for listening.
Piers, if you could stop sharing your screen. Brilliant. Okay. So that's us. That's us at the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. What I will do is I'll email Patsy with all of the slides that we've showed today, and hopefully, Patsy, you can then disseminate that amongst your members. Does anybody have any questions or any concerns or anything to do with hearing loss in general? Yeah, Patsy.
Although the title of the last slide was included cost, you didn't actually say anything about cost.
Oh, Piers, I'll hand that over to you.
Oh, sorry, Piers.
Sorry, most of the equipment is free. So just to say that, first of all, most of it is free and there is no cost. There's some equipment that there is a slight cost to, but we will explain exactly what equipment is available for you for free and what equipment may be additional cost to you. So at the time that we're having the conversation, it would depend on which equipment you want. There may be an additional cost, but most of it is free.
That clear enough for you, Patsy? Is that okay?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, David.
Yeah, really interesting. Thank you. It's great to know that support is available. How many people actually do have hearing problems in Bristol? What sort of proportion of the public are you supporting?
That's a really good question. So nationwide, we believe there's in the region of 12 million people in the UK that are deaf or hard of hearing. They had the Bristol census recently, and they've estimated that there is around, I mean, it was very low numbers. I can't remember the exact details, but I think, Piers, do you remember? Sorry. It was 10,000 people.
10,000.
Yeah, so 10,000 BSL users in the UK as a whole. But in terms of deaf people, that the numbers are quite low. In terms of hard of hearing people, the numbers are much higher. So in Bristol, like I was saying, we had the census. We had a SICAVIT report in 2016, which stated that about 200 deaf people lived within the Bristol area at that time. We assume there's more, particularly hard of hearing, but we didn't have specific data at the time. But we assume there are more. Yes, Piers. Sorry, you maybe know a bit more about it.
Yes, so again, we don't just support deaf people, we support hard of hearing people or deafened people. So majority of the people that we do support are hard of hearing or deafened. So please don't think that you have to be a deaf BSL user. Majority of people were people who have lost their hearing through older age or through accident.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Were there a few, I mean, we know there are lots of hard of hearing people within Bristol. We know of that just through the work that we do and the service that the equipment service provide. And they do a fantastic job trying to make a difference to people's lives with the equipment that they provide. So my role is specifically to try and get hard of hearing people together, like I say, with the coffee mornings, information sessions, opportunities for them to meet other hard of hearing people like themselves, and try and build on a community there. That's my aim with my role. Sorry, Piers, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about the numbers. Audiology said they give out about 500 hearing aids a month. This is what we're being told from Audiology. So that's not just for Bristol, but that's in the region. So that covers South Gloucestershire, Bath and North East Somerset, North Somerset as well. So if we think about that 6,000 hearing aids being given out in 1 year in the sort of old Avon area, so that might help you with this, understanding some of the numbers.
Brilliant. Thank you, Piers. Yes, Christopher.
Right, I am hard of hearing. I have hearing aids, but rarely wear them. I certainly got out of the habit of wearing them when we were having to wear masks all the time, because I found what with the masks, my glasses and the hearing aids, it didn't work terribly well. I also get eczema in my ears. Now I've got cream for it, but the hearing aids do seem to, add to the irritation. And since my hearing is not that bad, although I do notice if I've got the hearing aids in, I realized that I hadn't heard leaves rustling in a tree for some years and this sort of thing. But I'm not quite sure what to do about it, because if I mention it to the doctor, they say, mention it to the people who supply the hearing aids. And if I mention it to the people who supply the hearing aids, they say, oh, we can't see anything. They shouldn't, this shouldn't irritate you. But yeah, so if you've got any suggestions, I could go away and boil my head, of course.
So sorry, you said I was going to suggest going back to audiology and maybe asking if they've got a different type of hearing aid that may be a bit more compatible with your skin, because there are various hearing aids available out there. It could be something to do with the weight, it could be something to do with the model itself. It definitely would be worth going back to them and maybe asking them if there's a lighter model, or that may reduce the irritation, perhaps. Because I do know that some audiologists might just say, oh, I don't know. But I think it's worth, if you're able to go back and say, look, I'm aware there are different models. I'm aware there are different ear molds that you can make. So perhaps just going back and saying that, rather than if you go back and say, do you know what the issue is? Sometimes if you give them something that can sort of interest them or give them food for thought, then they might think, well, actually, you could try this. It could be specifically the ear mold as opposed to the hearing aid itself. So it could be the material of the ear mold. Maybe it's not suitable for your skin. So again, worth bringing it up with the audiologist. I would definitely advise going back to the audiologist for that one, and just seeing if they can come up with other ideas as to what can help with your skin irritation. I appreciate it's difficult for me to say because I'm not a doctor and I wouldn't know about skin conditions and hearing aids and how it can affect them. But I do think probably audiology is the first place to go back to. Is that okay? And also, Christopher, might be worth you coming to the Hard of Hearing coffee mornings, because it may be that you find some of the other members have had the same issues and maybe they've got some advice or tips. They may well say, oh, we tried a different ear mold, or I don't know. Definitely worth checking out. Is that okay, Christopher? Has that answered your question?
A supplementary question, if I may. Although mine are National Health hearing aids, they're provided through one of the opticians in Bristol. And I have found it varies a great deal between who you see as to what you get told. And they only seem to have very limited choices to offer you. I don't know whether this is to do with the contracts they've got with the National Health Service or what. And whether I need to get myself referred to audiology, which I think is in St Michael's, isn't it?
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yes, the opticians will be a contract. So the NHS will have agreed some form of contract with them, but I would suggest going to audiology because I think they will have more choice and better knowledge. But also you said that some of the people, the information can conflict. Some people give you a lot of information. So I think it really, yes, it depends, like you say, who's working in the opticians and what they know about hearing loss itself. So that would definitely, I can imagine that would vary in an optician's, whereas if you would go to audiology, that might be better. I don't know about you, Piers, you're an expert when it comes to hearing devices and things. So if we're talking about equipment and things like that, I would always signpost them to Piers, to be honest. But I don't know, Piers, what do you think about an optician's? It might be that audiology would be the best place to go because they would, it's their expertise really. Yes, somebody else, Sani, has a question? Oh, Sani, you're on mute.
Christopher's question really leads on to my question, because I'm not sure if I have hearing loss. I mean, all the symptoms that you described, and I just read a book about hearing loss, but it all fits. And but I'm thinking, so what I've done is I've made an appointment at Boots in Cribbs Causeway to have they call it a 15 minutes hearing check. But where do I go? Because I've all sorts of weird and wonderful symptoms on one side of my face where I don't hear very well.
I would always advise people to contact their local GP, and the GP can then make a referral to the audiology department at the hospital. And that way you get a proper assessment. It's not a test as such, it's more of a diagnosis. So they'll look at the level of hearing loss you may have, which means that the audiologist can then modify the hearing aid to the amplification level needed according to your hearing loss. So it'll be much more specific. So you'll be comfortable with the sound that you're hearing. It won't be too loud, too quiet. If you go for a 15-minute checkup, I don't know specifically how they work, but it might be that they say, yes, you've got a hearing loss and here's a hearing aid, but it might not be modified specifically according to your hearing loss. So personally, I would always recommend you go to your local GP and just say, I've noticed that I've got these symptoms. I think I may be suffering with a hearing loss. And the GP can then refer you on to the audiology department, who can then make that official diagnosis and find out what level of hearing loss you have. Because there are 4 different types of hearing loss, or 4 different levels, I should say. You've got severe hearing loss, you've got moderate, mild, and profound. And that will then help the NHS, if they do a full assessment and diagnosis, they can then work out the best hearing aid for you, at what level it should be fixed at, according to your specific hearing loss. And that will then help you get an idea as to what sort of loss you have and why you haven't been able to hear certain sounds. Yeah, so that would always be my recommendation. Is that okay? Same with myself. I would always go to the audiologist every time, just to find out. If I felt like my hearing had deteriorated, I would go to audiology.
Yeah, well, I had a hearing check again at Boots many years ago, because they had sort of come for a hearing check and you get so many points on your loyalty card. So I did that. And they said then I had mild hearing loss. And I thought, okay, that if it's mild, I probably don't warrant a hearing aid. And so my idea was I go to Boots, have my hearing checked, and if they say, yes, you have hearing loss on one ear, then I can go to my GP and say, can I have a referral, please, to audiology? Because I mean, I can't afford to go private.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. If I were you, I would just go straight to the GP. Because I think if you say to them, I think I've got hearing loss because I have these symptoms, then they will refer you straight to the audiologist. But that's a personal opinion. I understand that if you went to Boots and they said that you had a hearing loss, then you could go to the GP. It could be that the GP would say, oh, well, if you've been to Boots and they know what sort of hearing loss you have, maybe you could talk to them about it. Whereas I feel like if you go direct to the GP, state you feel you may have a hearing loss, then they're more likely to just get that referral into the audiologist, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Sorry, Piers,
Yes,
you were going to say.
The GP, if you go and say that you've got a hearing loss, the only thing they can do is refer you to audiology. So you have to go, you can't go directly to the audiology, and Boots can't refer you to audiology. The only way to get referred to audiology at the hospital is through your GP.
So first step would be, yeah, go to the GP and tell them you think you may have a hearing loss. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Or Graham?
Everything you've said refers to receiving sound and making sense of it. Could you say something about communicating with a person who is either deaf or has serious hearing loss? Do you offer lessons in sign language?
Okay, so we at the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing, because we're such a small team, we focus solely on, not solely, but we focus on the equipment service and the role that I currently undertake, which is Community Development Officer. But we also have started doing deaf awareness training sessions. So there is some basic BSL that we will teach you included in that package. But you can go and learn sign language at various different courses in and around Bristol. I can email you a few. There is Bristol City College offers then Signature. If you type into Signature, that's the name of the website. Just type in Signature in Google and it'll come up with it. You can find out your local courses available to you. You can also contact various different lip reading classes. I know a few brilliant tutors that can then advise you in different ways to communicate with deaf and hard of hearing people with a bit of lip speaking and gesture, which can help with communication also. But I will email Patsy some information about that so that you can have a look and see if anything is interesting. Okay, Ray.
Just a couple of small things. I think you'll find that most Quaker meeting houses will have a hearing loop in their main room. So that's a benefit to lots of people. And something more on the amusing side. When I was younger, well, I worked with children all my life. When I was younger, I worked at a centre for children with partial hearing loss or hearing lost completely. And I don't know if any of you will remember the old body aids, the big things which used to be strapped to the chest.
Yeah.
And I think happily they have gone by now, but they were something I remember very well because I had to have to be able to communicate, watch the television with them. I had to have hearing aids fixed myself. And the idea of having this wax molded into your ear is something I remember today. And I still have a couple of those in my desk.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny how technology has changed compared to those days. I mean, now teachers or support workers have like very subtle microphones that they wear over their necks that connect directly to the students' hearing aids or cochlear implants. So, you know, it's advanced hugely. So quality of sound and everything is so much better for the students and reduces the background noise that they would have previously suffered. So they can hear speech much more clearly. Whereas the old radio aids picked up everything in the room, every single last background noise. So it was really difficult for the students to focus on what the teacher was saying or the support worker was saying, because it had to be a super quiet room. You know, doors shut, windows closed, everything just to reduce that impact on the sound. Whereas now, it's so advanced that it can just connect directly to their hearing device, which is brilliant. And Piers, he was showing me a video of when he was younger with the radio aids, and just walking around with these heavy pieces of equipment. And now it's, you know, now it's just this tiny little shoe that attaches onto the hearing aid and connects directly to the speaker. So yeah, definitely advanced.
And basically, because I'm a technical geek, rather like David, what do you see as the new developments in the audio industry?
Oh, I'm not sure what the best things are out there at the moment, because they work in different ways for different people and their hearing losses. So some people find certain pieces of equipment amazing, whilst others don't really get on with them. Maybe Piers is better to answer this one because he's the geek when it comes to technology.
There is some equipment that is coming up. So with hearing aids, Bluetooth is the new thing which is coming around at the moment. So that means you can Bluetooth into your television, you can Bluetooth into everything. So quite a lot of the equipment side is going, the physical equipment is going because Bluetooth works so well. And I think if in the future, theatres will start to have Bluetooth as well, which means you can sit in your own seat and just Bluetooth onto what the actors are saying straight into their microphones. And often, at the moment, we've got flashing lights to let you know that somebody's at your doorbell, but it's one white flashing light. I expect one day we'll have multiple flashing colors. So you'll have the red one will tell you it's your phone, and the blue one will tell you it's your doorbell. And also we've got things like the Ring doorbell, where I think on your telephone what you'll find is that you'll be able to split on kind of see who's at the doorbell. And also I think that your mobile phone will be able to have subtitles on it, as it were, so when people are speaking to you, you'll be able to read what they're saying as well as listening to what they're saying.
And I think that's why when we talk about hearing aids, it's such a great way. It's a great way to connect to technology. So if you have a hearing aid, it's going to open up loads of different things to you. So like Piers was saying, things like theatre, TV listeners, all that sort of thing. The hearing aid or cochlear implants or whatever hearing device you have will open those things up to you. Okay, Patsy, did you have a question?
Yes, it's partly a question and partly a comment. I've noticed recently that on the television, the speed of people actually speaking has gone up a lot. I noticed this because I was playing a couple of DVDs I'd made a year or so ago, and I could hear them so much better because they were being played more slowly. I just wondered if there's anything like in the pipeline whereby the sound, for people like myself with hearing loss, is there any way in the future that we'll be able to kind of turn, like you can turn down the sound, if you could slow down the speed at which the track was coming out? Is that conceivable, or is that a ridiculous idea?
Well, I think the problem is because audiology is often behind what's going on with other technology, and so in order to get speech to be able to be slowed down, I think that may be too difficult for us at the moment, because I think what would happen is if you slowed down the speech, you'd actually have to slow down the visual as well in order to match the speed of the speech. So I'm not sure the technology is there currently. The TV loop is worth thinking about, though, because even though people are speaking faster and you're struggling to hear them, with the loop system, because the information is going straight into the aid, actually that then makes the sound clearer and more crystal clear, which means that the speed is not so much of an effect because you can hear it so clearly.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And sorry, David, you had your hand up as well.
Oh yeah, three things now. One, just to Patsy, if you're watching a recording on YouTube, you can speed up and slow down the playback. People with ADHD often like to speed it up as much as 3 times because their brains are just working at that rate. You and I might want it in the other direction. And the other thing, my mother was hard of hearing, and I well remember her having this sort of shoulder pouch with 2 batteries in, low voltage and high voltage, and she it was a sadness for her that she felt excluded because she wasn't able to communicate as well with people. And on the other, just to a little bit of feedback, you've been completely lovely, the four of you. It's wonderful that you've come mob-handed, as it were. And I really feel that a warmth from you all, that you all communicate very sweetly. And I can feel that your work really does help people, not just technically, but by your manner and the way that you exemplify good communication. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. Well, you've been lovely. You've been lovely to work with and lovely to communicate with. So I hope you've learned something really useful, really valuable today. And please do keep in contact with the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing if you do have any questions or any concerns, or you're interested in looking into the equipment side of things for your own homes. Please do contact Piers. Like you said, Piers got something to add to that.
Also, to the information that I've just showed you on the screen, that's available for anybody. So if you think, oh, I'm fine, I can hear, but actually I know somebody who may benefit from that, please do pass the information on to them. Please help them to refer themselves, or you refer them. We're happy to work with anybody who's deaf or hard of hearing. So please do share this information with all of your friends and family.
And just remember, just like Piers said, the equipment service offer a full assessment within your own home to help identify what equipment would be appropriate, suitable for yourselves to improve quality of life within your own homes. So it just puts your mind at rest if you feel you've got all the access that you possibly can have within your own home, I think. All right. I think we'll draw that to a close now. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you've got lunch maybe getting cold at this point, so I won't take up too much more of your time. But again, thank you so much for inviting us along to your group, and I really hope you find the session valuable. Again, like I say, contact us anytime if you need any information. I will email Patsy with information resources that they can share around with the rest of the group. So if I don't see you, well, I won't see you now for a while unless you get in contact with me, but have a lovely weekend. Enjoy. Take care, guys.
Thank you, friends, for that wonderful hour. And we will hope to see some of you in our next meeting, which I would like to inform you is by our friend Harriet Lupton, and the title is called A GP in Retirement. Do GPs ever retire, I wonder? Thank you, friends.
Oh, thank you.
And have a good afternoon.